it was my own kind of spiritual soul awakening. So, you know, that core of the functional medicine kind of model, it was missing from my own life. I knew it was important, but I wasn't tapping into it and I didn't have a framework to access it. For me, the dancing really did that. That transformed my life, the way I showed up in life, showed up as a mum, was able to connect with joy on a whole different level, love, gratitude, just like feeling it in my body rather than saying the words. This was all through dancing.
What if movement could help to heal more than just your body? In this episode, Dr Indika, who calls herself the Joyful Dancing Doctor, shares her journey from being a GP to becoming a functional medicine practitioner and then discovering the power of conscious dance. Together we talk about the challenges of traditional healthcare, the importance of lifestyle changes, and how creating safe spaces for movement can help people connect with themselves on a deeper level as a tool for healing and self-expression. This is an empowering conversation about our mind-body connection, the emotional release that comes with movement, and finding freedom through dance. Dr. Indika's story reminds us that healing is personal and unique, and how movement through dance is a wonderful way to unlock the body's wisdom and energy. Whether you're curious about how this kind of dancing could benefit you, or simply want to feel better in your life, there's something in here for everyone. Indika, your background is as you trained as a GP and worked for many years as a GP. What was your experience of helping people in primary care?
It was hard. It was hard. It was stressful. It felt like you were there, or I was there, having trained and wanting to help people. I mean, it sounds a cliche, but that's kind of where I was starting from at medical school, applying to medical school. But it just felt like everything that I was doing, suggesting, treating wasn't really helping, wasn't truly helping. And so there was this kind of vicious like frustration from my side as a doctor, but also for the patients. They felt like, well, I'm just not getting anywhere. It felt very much like, okay, what pill, what sticking plaster, how could we fight this fire? It really felt like that. And to do that on a day-to-day basis just didn't feel to me like I was helping, truly helping. And so, yeah, it was just made up for a very kind of stressful experience, um, and then throw in the system of the NHS and all the kind of things that can go wrong, and just.
And also the time pressure on you, because obviously everyone knows who's in the UK that, you know, you've got 10 minutes to see someone and find out pretty much everything that's going on. But also from your personal perspective as a doctor, you're seeing lots and lots of patients in one day. So without breaks, with very few breaks. So it's you know, you're not kind of practicing what you preach, in the sense that, you know, rest, take breaks and look after yourself. It's really difficult to do that as a GP.
Yeah. I mean, like on both sides, the patients waiting lists, you know, not getting anywhere, not getting their answers. So there's this like fueling of this like, and then GPs, nurses, you know, on the other side, who have very like a lot of pressure to kind of get people moving inside that window. And you know, when someone is really struggling, and it's not a medical issue, it's a social issue, it's an isolation, you know, they're isolated, they're lonely, they've lost a loved one. Like, how can you possibly handle that inside a 10-minute window with a very stressed practitioner or doctor or nurse? It was. But having said that, I completely like that. Let's not undermine or undervalue the value of GPs and NHS and the service that they do provide, because they do save lives.
Absolutely.
That's not, when you're really at crisis with your health, they are there.
Yeah.
It's not perfect by all means. But I know a lot of people have really appreciated the service and the kind of going beyond. I think
Yes.
that is really what a lot of the health professionals who haven't burnt out yet feel that deeply. And I just want to,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right to do that. And, it does save lives in emergency situations, particularly. It is absolutely incredible. But I think the fact it's called the National Health Service is almost the wrong labeling. It should now be the sort of National Crisis and Emergency Service, or something that talks about what it does best and actually take the pressure off everything that comes before that, in a sense. And you decided to move into a slightly different path, didn't you? Because you found out about functional medicine and realized the huge benefit of looking at lifestyle interventions. What made you start to find out about that new world?
I think I was just like finding, like searching for there must be something else that I could, that can be more of be more helpful than what I've currently trained in. And so I discovered, I think it was actually the sequence of events was with my firstborn when she was 6 months old. I intuitively knew that food was going to be important. And that led me to kind of learn through recipes and things like that, the science behind food, which is something I wasn't very attuned to through my medical training. Food's important, but just eat a balanced plate, and that was the and eat your vegetables, and that was it. But actually, there's more to it than that. The science behind it, and then that led me to, whilst I was kind of on that path, to discover functional medicine through a nutritionist, a well-known nutritionist, and she put a picture of her and Mark Hyman, who's like one of the thought leaders over in the States for functional medicine. He was coming to London to give a talk. I thought, oh, I'll go and see that. And then it was just like blew my mind completely. And I was like, oh my God, this is the medicine that it feels like this is the proper medicine. This was me then, because we really delved into the biochemistry, the physiology, just the whole, how everything works on a body level in so much detail. And it was just highlighting to me how much we are missing inside of a GP consultation, of actually the value of nutrition, lifestyle, environment, all these other pieces. And then also highlighting the importance of, someone's childhood, any trauma that they've, experienced, how that impacts on their health, and, environmental toxins, and how genetics, it just kind of putting it all together felt really like, oh, this is proper medicine. And right in the middle, right at the core of looking at the whole person, was the mind, body, spirit, emotion.
Right.
And there was something there that I was like, oh, yeah. But I didn't know, and we will talk about it, I didn't know how to tie that in to everything. But I feel it was at the core.
And it was a final missing piece, in a way, that made sense to you.
It made sense, yes. It made sense. And I hadn't, before the dancing, I hadn't gotten a firm grasp of it. It was just like a thing that was important.
Yeah.
Just as trauma was important, but it wasn't something that I could really, I didn't have a framework or a way of enabling that to also be activated and healed and, all of that. But it was very still very medical, okay, tests and there's lots of tests that gives a lot of more information, a lot more data, which is really fascinating to be able to see how the body really is functioning. And then, ways of, specific foods that had specific, ingredients and chemicals and nutrients that could boost certain pathways in the body and support. And then, real kind of laser focused nutritional supplements. It was just really mind blowing and fascinating. And it helped.
I was going to say, so when you then were using that on patients, I presume you had more time with them, because this isn't through the NHS, that was presumably through private practice. You had more time with them, but you were also able to look at the problem or the problems from all different angles, and have a sort of much more multi-layered approach to their health. And so how did people's bodies and minds respond to that?
So it depends on the person. It depends on, this is what I learned, is like, okay, so we've got all of these other options now, all of these different ways, deeper ways of looking in and problem solving and, healing, and don't want to use the word fixing, but, just like supporting. But what I realized is still at the core of it is the person behind, the person underneath, how willing and open they are to to change. Right?
Absolutely. The saying, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it feed, is so true. In every time that you are working someone, it's how much they want it. And as a slight aside, I if I ever get referred someone by someone says, oh, will you work with my mother, or I know someone who would really respond, I'm now at the point where I'll probably say no, just because that person hasn't found me themselves. It's not come from within them. And if it's that deep need and that the deep understanding of what you can bring to them and that connection, that is the sort of secret juice, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely. Because I was like all excited about this new way that I had discovered for myself and for my patients and for my practice. I was like, anyone and everyone sort of talking about it, and like even loved ones, like, oh, you've got diabetes, there's so much you could do about it, and there's this and that, and falling on deaf ears. I was like, what's going on here? Like, I have the solution that is going to help you feel better and healthier and potentially, minimize and reverse and, all of this. But no, I'll only just take this and this, but not the whole piece, which was really quite a big learning for me. So it's the person. Ultimately, the core of the person, and that mind, body, spirit, that kind of the soul of the person.
Coming back to the same thing again, where if you're not tapping into a deeper level, as you're talking about, then it's difficult to, then there's always going to still be barriers around that are either put in place by others or are being held by the person themselves through potentially fear of letting those barriers go.
And I think just kind of as you were talking, just reflecting on my earlier journey, I really wanted to go deep, and was kind of like, oh, come on, let's get to the root cause, because that's like the big thing with functional medicine and other approaches that take a holistic view. Well, let's get to the roots. Let's go deep. But not everybody has the awareness, is not like emotionally, spiritually, like holistically ready to go so deep. Like, it is a journey. And so what I've learned is to really, and especially like, for those who, GPs who may be listening to this, who will know this, is that you have to meet people where they're at and plant the seed.
Mm.
That's all. That's all you can do. And if they're ready, if they're interested, if they're curious, then you can work with that. But if there's barriers, if there's things in the way, it's just too much, work with that.
And those barriers might be there now, but if you have planted the seed, it can sit very quietly, be dormant until 5, 10, however many years or months or whatever it is later. And then suddenly the shoots start to grow because the time is right. And I think that's absolutely key, that we don't think, well, I knew about this before, but I didn't do anything. And therefore, why didn't I? And sort of beat ourselves up over the fact that we haven't responded to that knowledge, because it has to be right. All of the things have to come together, sometimes through a bit of a crash and a calamity, sadly. And at other times, just that awareness, like you're saying, this awakening where you're already slightly on the search, and that thing comes into your life and it all suddenly makes sense.
Yeah. And I was just smiling as you talk, because it just reminds me of my own personal kind of, and I'm sure this will resonate. It's like, someone said something 5 years ago to you that would be a good idea to do. I'm talking about my husband now. He told me something that would be a really good idea for me. I was like, yeah. 5 years later, oh, okay, yeah.
Now I get it.
Now I get it. It's just landed, and I'm like, okay, now putting it into place, put it into practice. So, so we have to. So I think that in itself can be quite empowering because as a doctor, you feel like this sense of responsibility to make things better. But it's not our sole responsibility. The responsibility lies, it's a co-creation, it's a partnership, right? But if the patient or I'm talking doctor now, but patient doctor isn't kind of collaborating and co-creating something together that feels, right, then it's not going to work. It's just, meeting that person where they're at. Okay, here, plant the seed, and then, keep the door open.
Yeah.
And they have to like patients have to we have to take ownership and learn something new or do something different, and having that support, finding your tribe, and all of this anyway is key.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just taking a quick pause because I want to tell you about a new offer exclusively for listeners of this podcast. If you'd like to improve your mobility, strength, and learn more about moving well in daily life now and to train for your 90s, come and move with me in the Reclaim Movement membership. There's weekly live coaching in term time with hundreds of replays available, as well as hordes of 5 and 10-minute mini movement videos to follow throughout your day. I'm offering you a 15% discount on your first month's membership on top of the 7-day free trial. Go to reclaimmovement.co.uk/membership to create your account and quote the code podcast15. Let's move together to feel better and keep doing all the things you love. So now, as probably people will have seen from the title of the podcast, you call yourself the Joyful Dancing Doctor, because you've had a seam of dance throughout your life, and I'd love you to tell us a bit more about that. But you find that dance is something that really can tap deeper than many other things, in a way that people can more easily access that. So we're going to come on to talk about that more, to understand really fully what that means. But just tell us first about your sort of dance career, as it was.
My dance career.
Yeah.
So I've always loved to dance. Didn't really do much dancing as a young child. Took ballet a little bit, but nothing much. But it just kind of first came into full effect at university when I learnt and loved the Latin American dancing, and they had a university team, and I sort of got all kind of immersed in that world. yeah, I love to perform as well. So that kind of, really suited me, and I loved it. And it took it semi-seriously after university for about 4 years. Met my husband, and but then it had to all kind of stop because it was a very, very big commitment, and we had to get serious with other things, work and family and stuff like that. And and so I wasn't dancing. I wasn't dancing, and that was something that I didn't realize at the time was missing from my life. And so I was, functional medicine-ing and feeling like there was something out there, something missing from what I was offering to my patients, but also something missing from my life. And then came across, discovered um, a way of dancing that is accessible to all, and that was also healing, which I didn't appreciate when I was, doing the Latin American dance. I thought it was for fun, it was technique, it was performance. I didn't know that actually you can, it was a thing that you can just dance, but also go deep and, connect with yourself. Anyway, so that's what I know now. But when I discovered this way of dancing, which I think the umbrella term is conscious dance, which is like a mindful, bringing in mindfulness into movement with no steps, no rules, no choreography, just as a way of moving your body and really being aware of where it is and how it feels, and just moving the energy and tapping into your inner child and having fun with it, being loud, and all of that. And it just blew my mind. And I didn't realize that this is something, actually a tool that I can bring into my medical practice. And so I did some training, and then started to lead sessions online. This was kind of when we were coming out of lockdown. And for me, it was like my own kind of spiritual soul awakening. So, that core of the functional medicine kind of model, it was missing from my own life. I appreciate it. I knew it was important, but I wasn't tapping into it, and I didn't have a framework to access it. But for me, and I know everybody's different, but for me, the dancing really did that. And that transformed my life, the way I showed up in life, showed up as a mum, was able to connect with joy on a whole different level, love, gratitude, just like feeling it in my body rather than saying the words. This was all through dancing. And it transformed my life, and it was starting to weave it into my medical practice. But the thing I came up against was that the paradigm of, right, doctor knows all the answers, give me a prescription of what I need to do and what tests I need. That dynamic, there wasn't much space for let me give this a go, and let me see what comes, and so for me, I felt more drawn towards dance than medicine, as in functional medicine, although it's really helpful and useful. And so I made the decision to actually devote my path towards dance and conscious dance, and use that as a tool for transformation.
And going back to when you were starting to drop it in with your functional medicine clients, how was that received?
Like that. It's like, and this is the thing, like, people don't really understand. And I suppose it's it's not their fault. It's just how we've been even I thought dance attributed dance to performance.
Yeah.
Rather than something that anybody can do.
And I think that's the limitations, as you were saying, of the sort of structured, we should dance in this way to that type of music, all of those sort of unwritten rules. And I think with dance, sometimes you would see the person across the room who was going for it in whatever dance situation it is. And when it's more freeform, and looking like they were really happy, really enjoying themselves. And the main thread was that they just didn't really seem to be that bothered what those around them were thinking of what they're doing. And I think that's a huge part when you're talking about dance and really enjoying dance. It's getting past that. What are the social norms around this? How am I being viewed? How do I feel about how people are seeing me? And losing those shackles.
Losing those inhibitions. So I'll just share a story in terms of my own experience when I started. So when I was doing the training, I was online, and I was in my room following a session, and like there was nobody there. Like, right, it's just me. And you'd think that, oh, she'll have no problem going for it and letting it out and going like freely moving. But even I realized, oh, okay, my body's not really kind of that free, because I have been trained.
Yeah.
I have been deeply conditioned through my, technical dancing to move in certain ways. So even I have had to kind of break the shackles, break free from those shackles. They're not shackles, but just that it is a thing. And I've had, so I think what can help those who feel self-conscious, because I think we all do, to a degree, is this is where the power of a safe space, where you have space held for you, and everyone's kind of there for the same reason. And I actually encourage people to close their eyes and dance that way, because it just blocks out all that kind of what they're thinking, what they're doing. They're not thinking and looking and watching, is the honest, is the truth.
No.
And then you just kind of find that freedom within to just like really connect with your body
and
on that level.
It's all about feeling, not seeing then. Yeah.
And feeling, yes. And so I had a lady who I held space for in a group. It was an event, small event. And when she heard that we were doing this dancing, she was in such a bad mood. She was like, oh God, have we got to dance? Right. So I know a lot of people will like, dancing's not my thing, right? But she was there and she had to participate. I did not had to participate. That was the invitation. And because of how I hold the space and prepare and, say that this is for everybody, and this is not about a performance, this is about connecting to your body and connecting to music. That's all it is. She was able to get there for herself. And she gave me feedback. She said that it was really helpful to see how I was moving, not to follow me, but as an invitation to be free.
A permission
to be that free, because I'm like, my hair's all over my face and I'm like, doesn't matter, like make a sound, grow, doesn't matter. I was continuously, when I hold space, I invite people, I give permission. That is really important, I find, from, those who are feeling a bit self-conscious, that you have permission to be and express and create and enjoy and be loud. Like, these are permissions. And there was another example of a lady who, when I do invite people to make sounds, and no matter what it sounds like, and at the end she was like, I found that difficult. I found that I couldn't do it. And I was like, well, that's okay. That's, at least now. Yeah. And that's something you can work with. And when you think back, it may be as, you know, something in childhood, for example,
Mm.
something traumatic, you know, perhaps that is innate, you know, disabled her ability to actually be free with her voice.
Yeah.
And how that shows up in her life.
Yes.
It will be showing up in her life where she's not able to speak her truth. So it's just so like,
yeah,
I could talk for hours.
It's far more wide ranging than you see it. You could see it as initially just basically moving your body freely to music as opposed to dancing, because maybe the word dancing has already comes with its own little set of connotations for people, and therefore taking that away completely and just connecting with how it feels to move limbs, hair, as you were saying, head, anything. You're moving your esophagus because you're making noise, every kind of movement that you can get in your body, whether how that feels for you. And I think so, just to jump in here, I came, as you know, I came along to one of your morning movement sessions, which was 15 minutes. It was early in the morning, and it was on Zoom, and it was you were allowed to have cameras on or off, absolutely up to you. I was in my pajamas, so I had my camera off, and I was just coming to investigate and see what it was like, because I'd read about what you were offering, and I was intrigued purely by the name Dancing Doctor as a start, because I thought, what a wonderful combination of words, because that's unusual. And I love to dance, but I dance in certain spaces and certain times and not often enough. But I have been lucky enough to definitely feel a connection with myself when I dance. I really enjoy it. My body doesn't necessarily do exactly what I want it to do, but I love the music and I feel that connection through that. So I wanted to see what it was like. And it did take me the full session to eventually feel freed, to connect in. And I'm someone who works with body movement all the time and loves the feeling of moving my body. And yet the way that you were leading it, over the 15 minutes, the permission by the end was full, if you see what I mean. I'd completely responded to it. And you're absolutely right. I had to close my eyes because around me was a bedroom. I was in my pajamas, you know, it was lit, etc., etc. But I would open my eyes to see you, just to be slightly, as you were saying, slightly led by sort of what's okay here. There is that permission that comes into it. And then once I kind of got the idea, then I was off myself. And the music was really interesting, varied music. But also you gave small cues, which were also helpful for people to give them permission to see things, feel things in a slightly different way throughout the process. And obviously at the end, you feel great because you've moved, you've got your energy flowing, especially in the morning. You connect with all the different parts of your body. You've, you know, down to a sort of joint level, everything has been oiled nicely, but you feel more free and sort of ready to attack the day. And so I would invite anyone to come along and have a chance, and we'll link everything obviously in the show notes so that you can go and have a try yourself. But this is now your mission, and it's obviously not a usual kind of dance class, hence, you know, asking you to come on so you can really describe it for people. So how do people themselves sort of describe the process that they go through with this? And I don't mean just in one session. I mean when they come consistently and build each time, because obviously we all know consistency leads to progress.
Absolutely. So thank you for sharing your experience. It's lovely to hear how you found it, and very interesting that even like your thing is movement. It took you 15 minutes to really fully be in that zone, and that's okay. That's like, you know, that's natural and normal. But when you are consistent with it, you're able to drop in much quicker.
Yeah.
Because you're practicing this way of moving. and connecting with yourself. And I find that, as we were talking, like when you're right at the end of the 15 minutes, I invite my ladies who dance with me um, to do something else for themselves. So whether it's a meditation or a journaling or some breath work, because you're actually really now in your body.
Yeah.
Right. And I've got clients who they do it that way around. They dance with me first and then they go on to meditate, and they feel like they don't have to still the mind. It's all like they're in their bodies and they can go deeper. So in terms of like the journey and consistency and building this in, quite a few of my my community wouldn't class themselves as dancers, and but they love the feeling of dancing, and so that's why they start, and they want to build a sort of consistent practice, and so it's it's something that enables. So it really depends on the individual, but in terms of what you notice, you're able to drop in much more quickly. You're able to, when you do it consistently, you're able to start feeling more. So feeling, you know, when you do your gratitude practice, you can actually embody it, right? Because a lot of us, we have a gratitude, some of us will have a gratitude practice, gratitude journal, but actually accessing that full experience, you're able to do. And I've had ladies one lady said, when I started, I felt like I was like moving my arms, moving my legs, moving my body. But now it feels like I'm really moving like from the inside, which I thought was really powerful. One other lady said that she loves to dance, dance is her thing. But what I do, what's different from what I like from the dancing that she, loves, is that you put on a piece of music, you dance in your kitchen, you love it, you're going for it, and woo, it feels great. Like that is wonderful if you're able to do that on a regular basis. But dancing inside my space is you're not you are dancing from the inside out, and so you don't know sometimes you don't know what even is in there, and so it's that meditative kind of experience, and so yeah, like you so with the chakra system and the meridians and things, you're opening up those energy centers,
yeah,
and any kind of stagnant energy that may be in a physical form, stiffness, tightness, tension, you're able to release that. So, people who've been like going to a physio for their shoulder or their knee, nothing's really working. They come dance, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? Because actually the root cause was an energy, emotional reason.
Yeah. Well, and often something, particularly shoulders, a really good one. It's about how you are holding yourself, and that physical patterning can often come because of something emotional, something that's happened in the past, something that's tricky that makes you permanently go into this sort of held pattern, and actually being able to fully relax and release that allows your body to almost on a sort of a structural level know that there's other places that shoulder can sit, in a sense, so that it's more free to move. And I think one of the lovely things about dancing, particularly in the way that you're leading people, is that it's about investigating those sort of ranges in their body as well. When they're feeling into it, you're not being tasked with a target of lifting X in such a way. You're not putting your body in a very specific pattern and not feeling any freedom within that, and being told it's right to do this, it's wrong to do it slightly differently, which I go against an awful lot. And certainly in my coaching, I'm always saying, just see how it feels to you, because our bodies are meant to move in these wonderful 360-degree, incredible shapes and patterns. And yet we limit the shapes that we make with our body every day. And we hold ourselves in a pattern, in a sort of repeated patterns that become very limited. So it's not surprising that then when we have emotional tightness or trauma, that therefore we do that even more so.
Absolutely. And as you were talking, like the word liberating, right? To not have to conform to anything.
Yeah.
And
freedom.
It's really, really freeing to be able to explore movement that you can access, that maybe you can explore, and you know, the amount that you can lift off through that process is huge. And the thing I wanted to also highlight was, you know, with the emotional tension that you referred to, emotional baggage. You know, we all, you know, put it, store it, and deal with it later, deal with it never, that kind of thing. All of that resides in the body.
Yeah.
And all of that can weigh us down. All of that can manifest as pain, dis-ease in the body. Okay, so we talk of root cause, functional medicine, Dr. Hat on. Emotional root cause is huge. And so this way of freedom of movement is a way of accessing that without it having that heaviness of counseling and talk therapy.
Yeah.
So I find that, because, you know, in a safe space, you're allowed to become emotional. If you feel emotional, you're allowed to become emotional. But what happens is that energy, or, you know, emotions is energy in motion. It is seeking to be felt, to be acknowledged, and then it releases. It moves through you, through the act of your dance, right? Through the act of whatever movement you're doing. And the body responds, like your physical body responds to that. So that's why sometimes that knee pain, that shoulder pain that keeps niggling, or the back pain, or, you know, any kind of pain or, you know, disease in the body, it resolves because you've moved and shifted that stuckness, that heaviness, that emotional kind of energetic knot.
And you're accessing that connection that is really hard to access between what's happening in your mind, what's happening in your life experience, and your history, and how that has shaped what's happened in your body. I always come back to the very simple example of someone who's happy and feeling lightness will always have a lovely sort of more open and lifted and look more confident, sort of a much more open stance. Whereas when we're holding things, we will go more fetal. And the more we hold ourselves in that sort of more fetal position, if we're tipping forward, we're sort of protecting ourselves, the harder it is for us to the more tension we will carry, because on a biomechanical level, our structure likes to be nice and upright and stacked beautifully, because then we have the same tension front and back. Something's not pulling, gravity's not pulling us one way or the other. But the problem is that we get so into this separation with medicine, with so many things, about finding the problem in the body, fixing and trying to fix the body. And as you're saying, but we don't go to the root cause, because we just don't even realize that it's connected at all, let alone a cause that actually could be hugely affecting the way the body feels. And to get out of that sort of downward cycle of pain and dysfunction, we need to be tapping into what is wrong with us, or isn't sitting right within deep within us. And I think that a lot more people are becoming aware of that connection, the power of that connection. And you've talked a lot about energy today, and the meridians, your chakras. For some people, that will be a step too far. But everyone knows about energy. Everyone feels energy. And if I go back to that example of being open and confident, that person looks energized. They look like they're ready to go. And the person who is suffering, is in pain, emotional or physical, their energy looks lower. And so just being able to move that.
Energy is a thing, right? Energy is thing. So if the chakras and the meridians is too kind of far-fetched, then just imagine that everyone can feel this. When you walk into a room where there's been an argument, not a word spoken, you can feel it. You can sense it. That is energy, right? So that is what we don't see, but we can feel, and we can deepen into that feeling.
Yeah, great example.
Yeah, and also what I absolutely love, because sometimes, we can feel heavy with life and our past and our, relationships, and like, and we want to kind of, there's part of us that want to understand and get to the like fix the problem, right? And it's just like, I need to understand and fix the problem. But actually, there are ways, and dance is one of them. The way the free form dance, conscious dance, is a way of moving through that without necessarily having to fix or identify or understand conceptually. Because the body is so much more wise than we give it credit for.
Yeah.
It can actually sort, and I don't know whether this is appealing or not, it sorts a lot of stuff for you if you give it half a chance.
Yeah, because it wants to ultimately be, in medical term, homeostasis. It wants to be level. It wants to be balanced, a bit like the front and back I was talking about. Tension, tension front and back, if you forget the biomechanical, it wants the same within the whole body in everything it does. Just like if you're thirsty, you need to have a drink. And we get these lovely physiological cues for some things, but unfortunately not for everything that we need.
And the thing with conscious dance is there's this sort of catharsis in the process where we do, let loose, shake it out, dance it out, go wild, go primal. But there is like, our bodies need that. Like humans and animals, that's how they process. Like if there's an animal that has been attacked, then they will, and the danger is gone, they will release all that tension, all that stress in the moment. Right? And then move on. But the problem we have is that we embody so much, and it just goes in and goes in, but there's no way out. So dancing it out, really kind of going for it. Obviously, it's a journey. Not all of us can do that, but that's where the journey comes in, trusting that process, and you just let out. And so it's just like you sort of, your dancing is sorting lots of stuff out that you don't have to think about. You just enjoy the process. Put on like some great music, come to one of my sessions, or a few of them, and you just kind of, you're supporting yourself in so many aspects in one thing.
Yeah. And in this modern, fast-paced, pressurized world, it doesn't have to be for long periods. And that's one of the other problems that we've got into in our society, which I talk an awful lot about, is this sort of, if you're not doing it for an hour, and if you're not coming out sweaty, and you're not almost, in pain, then it's not done you any good. And actually, it's often the opposite that's true. Often then it's particularly if you're seeing it that way, then it's the opposite you probably need in your life.
Absolutely. And also, I feel what's sort of missing, even from some yoga experiences that I've had, is that it misses the connection piece, because you're focused on the postures and the what you're doing with your body. You miss out on that connection with yourself piece, which is huge. I was going to say something, I've forgotten that.
And actually, on the yoga, I have certainly enjoyed lots of yoga classes in my time, but again, there's a formula to what you're doing, and you're thinking, am I doing this pose correctly? Is the person next to me doing it differently? There's all of that going on, which actually therefore completely inhibits your ability to fully focus within yourself, and have that feeling.
Yes, absolutely. And you have to hold it in. Like if you're having a bad day, then you can't, we can't sort of show it, but where does that go? what was I going to say? I've just remembered what I was going to say was like, I have had times, because I've done this consistently. I dance every weekday for 15 minutes. I have days, like I have bad days. Like this is
Of
not
course.
something about like you do it only when you feel good. No, no, no. You do it regardless, right? And in those moments where it's not been a great day or not great feeling, it's actually been the most powerful.
Yeah.
Because you're able to come out of your head, that sort of darkness, the heaviness, the thoughts and all of this, and be really present. And even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to be fully present with yourself in your body, in the music, is a gift.
Yeah, it can be a rare thing these days. Yeah.
It's a gift. And I usually, like the music that I use, really speaks to the soul, really speaks to you, because a lot of the music, from these artists are written from their soul.
Yeah.
And so I find some of the messages often, they're so like that's the absolute truth that we all need reminding on a daily basis. I think it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I've got this power within me, and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The answers are within those kind of messages. And that might be a bit too far-fetched for some people, but that's okay. Just
let it wash over you, quite
let it.
frankly.
You don't have to take it all in.
No.
The message, like one thing that I get told so many times is that was exactly what I needed.
Mm.
And to start with, I was scratching my head because I couldn't get it, because I don't know what's going on in their life and their day and stuff. But there's I delivered something that was exactly what they needed, and it dawned on me the reason why is because the body knows exactly what you need, and you're simply connecting, giving it full permission to go where it needs to go, to shift what it needs to shift, and that's why you're like a bespoke kind of solution for where you are. So
in a really lovely, easy way. There's and it's entirely your own plan for it. You're not telling anyone to move in this way or that. They're not feeling like they have to achieve something. Progress purely comes from how much they can get out of the session, and free into it. So if anyone is has any residual barriers, let's say, after this conversation, which I really hope they wouldn't, or particularly if it was not in the privacy of their own bedroom in their pajamas kind of thing, but and you like to hold public spaces as well.
Yeah.
How would you help them to get past those barriers? There's something, let's say, they really like the sound of it. They get why it might work for them, but something holds them back. What would you say to that?
So, I mean, certainly, I offer online sort of dancing. So that's something that, and I know, it's not just me, there's others. So that might be a way of, finding your own space to give it a go. Because I think with this, if you like the sound of it, but you're like, oh, scared, you kind of have to go through the motions and find as safe a space as possible for you to go on that journey, because it's not forever. Like that self-consciousness, that fear, that that will all shift, right? It's just about finding the space that you're comfortable exploring in, I would say. And, conscious dance, ecstatic dance, 5 rhythms, these are the other kind of forms. It's like the new breath work. It's like the new yoga kind of phenomenon. So it is kind of growing, and you're like a lot of retreats, which, are for small groups. So safe spaces, they will have conscious dance or dance, freeform dance. So maybe kind of investigating those in your local area and just kind of go on the journey. And with these spaces, it's really, you're not expected to do anything. Like you can dance in your mind, you can dance with your eyelashes. I've had people who, the music's kind of up here. Some people are up here. but there are some who sit down and dance that way.
Yeah.
And that is perfect. So it's very, what I want to encourage is like, there's no pressure, but put yourself in those spaces, find those spaces that you can explore, go on your own journey, and you will get there.
And it allows you to be you.
It allows you to be you. Exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been absolutely fascinating. So people who are dying to now come and have a dance with you, how can they find you?
So I would say go to www.drindika.com/dance. That's got everything and anything that I'm up to. It's always changing. But I have an online, which you tried. So that will be there for you to try as a first port of call.
Definitely.
I've got freebies, I've got, classes and all the rest of it. There's lots going on. So I'd say go there. And also feel free to reach out to me. So on that link will be like an email address and stuff. So reach out to me, and I'm really open to having a chat and supporting in any way I can.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed listening, and if you have, you can help by doing 3 things. First, press the follow button to tell podcast platforms you want to listen again. Second, please give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review about why you liked it. And third, I'd love you to share it with friends and family or on your socials, for which I'm truly thankful. Finally, if this podcast is making you want to start reclaiming your own movement, join me in the Reclaim Movement membership for classes, both live and by replay, and countless videos of mini movement breaks to add into your daily life, covering practical and fun, important natural movements. Visit reclaimmovement.co.uk/membership to get started with your 7-day free trial. See you for the next episode, and thank you so much for listening.